What are your top tips for humanitarian practitioners conducting market assessments?
So the first thing I'd say is know your key analytical questions very well, because they will guide you in terms of what tools to choose and also the depth of analysis that you need to undertake. Keep in mind that those questions can be adapted as you find out more, or as you discover perhaps new sources of information or new anomalies that might require some investigation. So keep focused on your KAQs, as they're called, and they're also very helpful too when you're training people, because you can get some sense of ownership and the overall understanding as to the purpose of that assessment. We want to find out to answer this question, so it can be very useful. Remember that the market assessment is a snapshot in time, like all assessments. So if you're working in a highly dynamic context, please keep in mind that you might have to either go back and reanalyze or monitor the situation, because it will be changing quite quickly. So don't burn your budget on one massive assessment when you know there could be changes in a couple of weeks' time. So just pace yourself and make sure that you are collecting the information that you really need to answer the questions that you have at that moment in time as things are fluctuating. Remember to get different perspectives. That's quite important in market assessments. We tend to focus so much on the consumers, on the beneficiaries we have. We tend to talk less to the private sector and some of the key actors who influence market functionality. So that'll be people like the authority figures, financial service providers, warehouse agents, transporters, things like that. And so just keep it broad. Make sure you do a good stakeholder mapping before you start the assessment.
Yeah, for practitioner or humanitarian doing market assessment, I think it is very important for us in humanitarian field to know how the market is looking like. Yeah, before you start any intervention, it is very important for us, especially in food security program, and under it we have these sub activities like cash transfer or voucher. We need to know how the market is looking like. In that question or in that assessment, you need to know the links or the route who is connecting the market with the other production areas. Is that market functional throughout the years or is not function? What are the type of the goods are available there? Availability, it is very important. Security around the market is very important. The price and who are the major dealer who are keeping the market busy, local community or trade who are coming from near countries like Sudan, Uganda, or those who are coming from Ethiopia to the Upper Nile. This is things for us in humanitarian. Before you start any activities, you need to know the situation around where you are going to start the project. All this can inform you that this market is looking like this. Yeah. After that, you will come and design the program based on the market, situation.
So market analyzers should identify the key market indicators to monitor during the response, while human response must be designed within the consideration of key market system. The main purpose of market analysis is to study the capacity of market system to cover the volume and identify the diversity of the population needs.
Part of the tips to humanitarian agencies while conducting market assessment is that the tool they are using should cover the key market areas of focus, such as market access, market functionality, availability of the items in the market. Does the market have the sufficient capacities to cover the beneficial demand? And also the tool should also study the market linkages.
For a quick guide, the how and the actions in doing a market assessment are defined in the CaLP program quality toolbox. I will say my top tip to do a market assessment will be around having the right team composition in place. First and foremost, ensure that you consider staff expertise. For example, having program sector specialists, having people like data analysts and supplies officers. It will be ideal also to consider language spoken to ensure you include staff who will speak the local language and are familiar with the market and the affected population. Also consider the gender of the team, ensuring you have both genders to support the market assessment. This will ensure that market actors will be happy to speak to the gender they will be comfortable with. Most importantly, having at minimum one of the team members who is familiar with the tool that will be used or who has undertaken the previous market assessments comes in handy. A very key consideration is having a member who has a decision-making authority, and this is an area we mostly overlook. This decision-making authority will help ensure that the results are utilized in the overall programming of the organization. The market assessment therefore requires a concerted effort and a joint working relationship among various team members and across core functions.
My own understanding and the tips for market assessment in South Sudan is that, one, all the partners have to use a good tool, market assessment tool, in particular season. Like, they have to differentiate between tool that is used before the crisis, tool that is used during the crisis, and tool that's used after the crisis, so that it will have a comprehensive understanding of the market assessment. Two, I could also encourage partners to see that when they're doing market assessment, they could focus more on the protection, on looking at the protection risk analysis than the actual physical market assessment, because we are responding to beneficiaries, and these beneficiaries, if we are responding without analyzing the protection risk that will be involved in this modality, and then at the end it will also make us to do harm to the beneficiaries. Three, it will also be good that if people are doing market assessment, we should have a comparative information. We should have information from the primary data, and we should have information also from the secondary data. Because in South Sudan, we have seasons that mostly sometimes we cannot able to implement cash and voucher assistance in other locations. So if you go back to the secondary data, you can able to know exactly which location has actually challenges when you are recommending cash and vouchers assistance in that particular location, and which region has advantages over this. So all in this, you can able to have a good analysis of the market assessment that will able to guide your decision making on the methodology of the response that you are going to do. The other thing that I will also say is that in doing market assessment, we could do it as a team. It has to be a joint, not only an organization that goes up and it does it alone. It has to be at least a multi-sectoral kind of assessment, that at least someone from logistics, someone from finance, someone from maybe like protection cluster, someone from, so that everyone should have the view of exactly how this market assessment is supposed to, okay, like the regions, how it is going to supplement your responses in the location, in that particular place.
So regarding that is that, so for the market assessment part, it is definitely an important aspect of a cash and voucher assistance programming. And so the top tips that I think, which comes to my mind now, is like rather like having kind of only one agency, like going to one market and doing one market assessment. It would make more sense to like have a joint effort together, so that we are kind of not looking at one particular direction or one problem at one time, but also like having that holistic approach of how we can plan a better market based programming involving like not only direct interventions, but also indirect form of interventions, which in the longer term have a better impact in the restoration of a market as a whole. And the other thing might be like regarding how we communicate and coordinate with the other aid agencies while doing it. So I think if we keep that in mind, then that would